Tonight, in this edition of the primetime newscast on Equinoxe television, a legal mind interprets the travel ban placed on some sacked ministers and state officials in Cameroon. They say that preventing them from traveling out of the national territory is no guarantee of an arrest. In this newscast, Babila Jonathan is going to be speaking to a Douala-based legal mind. Also ahead, the Council of Cameroonian Ministers has been convened by the President of the Republic of Cameroon close to 4 years after the previous one took place. A political analyst in the second part of this newscast is going to be looking at the stakes of the Ministerial Council, which is coming barely 2 weeks after the partial cabinet shake-up that took place in the country. Plus, we talk about rising insecurity here in the economic capital Douala. Different gangs of bandits that fell into the dragnet of security officials, they are now under police custody. Those are headlines. We shall be right back. Good evening to you, ladies and gentlemen. You're watching the 6 p.m. primetime newscast on Equinoxe television. We have been bringing to you reports of sacked government ministers as well as administrative authorities in Cameroon that have been restricted from traveling out of the country. Legal minds here in the economic capital Douala say that the move by gendarmerie and police authorities in Cameroon is no guarantee that the various officials that have been banned from leaving the country are going to be arrested. Our reporter Babla Jonathan spoke with a legal mind here in the economic capital Douala, particularly Barrister Ango Jacob, and compiled the following report.
The former Cameroon Minister of Water and Energy Resources, Basil Atanganakuna, is the latest of former top government officials to join the list of personalities recently barred from leaving the country after the general manager of the Cameroon Telecommunications, David Nkoto Eman, and some of his collaborators confined within the national territory. The General Delegation of National Security took the same decision against the former Secretary of State at the Ministry of Public Works in charge of roads, Louis-Max Ahanja Ayina, pending investigations.
The state has all the powers and discretion to stop somebody from moving out of the country, particularly if they suspect that your hands are not clean. There's a limit of time, but the discretion of the state council can always extend it. Particularly when you're under investigation, that's why they prefer that somebody should actually be charged, because when you're not charged, you're still a suspect. The time for investigation will take a longer time. It is a discretion of the state council who have been conferred the right to investigate.
All security heads of the various outlets in the country are charged with ensuring the ban is effectively implemented.
Can confiscate the document, or they can write the immigration authority that EXY should not be allowed to leave the country, so that when you reach at the airport, you will just merely be intercepted. Now they are suspect, but the presumption is that most often such people are either arrested or the ban may be lifted up.
However, the legal mind, Barrister Ango Jacob, says it should be clear that being barred from leaving the country is not synonymous to being arrested.
Being a suspect doesn't mean that you have been condemned. It's just that they want to make verifications to know if you were conferred certain powers, if you were in custody of certain amounts of money, if that had been judiciously be used. It's probably the reason why such a person will relieve of his function. So they want to ascertain if the suspicion will be clarified. Is it true or not? This is not the first time. Some people have been suspected. Some ministers have been suspected. Immediately when they were relieved of their functions, they were banned from moving out of the country. At the same time now, they return their passport.
According to him, the application of Article 66 of the 1996 Constitution of the Republic would have eased the investigation of crimes allegedly committed by such officials during their term of office. This section of the country's constitution, which is not applied to date, states that
when you assume office, you declare your asset. When you leave office, you declare your asset. It would have eased everything for everybody, that the state can be capable of establishing at this moment that when this person entered office, he had this amount of money, and then when the person is leaving the office, this amount of money has been accumulated by that person. The rest of the investigation will just be easier. But the problem is that the state is caught in its own trap. That's the confusion that is going there. But however, those who are under investigation or who have been back from leaving the country were the very people who are condoning the law when they were in office. But now that very law is trapping them. You know, the law is a double-edged sword.
a double-edged sword that could in the near future set free or condemn the former state officials barred from traveling out of the national territory.
And can we call this an end to the Cold War that has been existing between the Public Service Ministry and Administrative Reforms and the National School of Administration and Magistracy? Joseph Lee, the Minister of Public Service and Administrative Reforms, and Linus Tosang Menjana of ENAM have pledged to prioritize government interests over personal ego. This is the first time in several months that the Administrative Service Minister and the ENAM Director are speaking one voice. It should be noted that the former Minister of Public Service, Michel Ange Angwin, was at daggers drawn with the Director of the National School of Administration and Magistracy over irregularities during the 2017 intake at ENAM. Joseph Lee was appointed new minister on the 2nd of March 2018 during a visit to ENAM. That was yesterday. Said that he is ready to collaborate with the Director of ENAM. We are going to be having the interviews of Linus Menjana as well as Joseph Lee. They are the General or the Director of ENAM and the Minister of Public Service and Administration respectively, that spoke to a reporter in Yaoundé, Marcelin Ganso.
I would like to say that the Minister of Public Service and the General Manager of ENAM are together. We are together to build a new way of collaboration. I think that the press have not served us to grow up this collaboration. Since many years, the Ministry and the ENAM have worked together to make sure that the civil servant of the magistrate will be the good, the best civil servant in our country. Since now, we expect that with the new minister, we can work together to make sure that people, magistrates and civil servants can help the President of the Republic to do his job.
Yeah, what I can tell you is that I saw many things from permanent service of administrative reform to ENAM, and I also went to ESMP. I've seen many persons, many people working hard, and I'm happy to notice that despite some difficulties, they want to do their job, and they are doing it well. Especially here in ENAM, I came to meet friends. I came to meet my children, the students of ENAM, and I'm happy to notice that everybody is working. They are trying to do their best in what they have to do. I also came here as a friend to say that between Minfopra and ENAM, there's no problem. There should be no problem. We should try to see what we have to do. Okay, Minfopra is what we call the tutelle, and ENAM is under Minfopra. But we need to work together, to be in consultation each time to see what we can do together for the best service of the Cameroonians. The head of state doesn't like noises, especially when there are rubbish noises. We need to work together so that everything should go smoothly and we can attain our goals.
The reactions of the Director of ENAM and the Minister of Public Service and Administrative Reforms. On to something else. Less than 2 weeks after the partial cabinet shake-up in Cameroon on the 2nd of March 2018, the President of the Republic is going to be meeting with government ministers tomorrow at the Unity Palace in the nation's capital. It is within the framework of the Ministerial Council meeting to take place at the Unity Palace, as I indicated. A release signed by the Secretary General at the Presidency of the Republic, Ferdinand Gongo, states that the head of state would deliver a special message to his ministers. The previous meeting between President Paul Biya and the ministers of Cameroon was late December 2014. It is taking place prior to the senatorial elections in Cameroon slated for the 25th of March 2018, another time when an end to the current socio-political crisis rocking the two Anglophone regions of Cameroon is still far-fetched. We now take you to the southwest region of Cameroon to talk about the divisional officer for Tico subdivision that has waged a war against urban disorder. He warned truck drivers against the phenomenon of parking on pavements, promising tough times to defaulters. It was during a launching of the weekly cleanup campaign in the said municipality. Director tells us more in the following report.
Tico subdivision, gateway into the southwest region. The people have defied the orders of the Tico Council prohibiting the parking of heavy-duty cars along the street.
I want to show you something. You see, I want to show you the kind of people we have who don't respect decisions. Look at the no parking sign. You see where it's placed. They are definitely removing it, put it behind there, and special decoration. They are taking it.
And some have refused keeping their own surroundings clean, while others sees the main road, especially in Mutengeni, as a dumping site.
They should send people to come and remove this place. They should come and remove, send people.
It is against this backdrop that Mr. Anwar Foklitus Asongwe, the divisional officer for Tico subdivision, is out on the street of Tico.
See what God has today for do. For officially launch, we'll keep Tico clean campaign then. We don't realize and say Tico don't overdate it to take pass mark.
He says his subdivision is the picture of the southwest region.
We there for entrance for region. One man they come for southwest, he just pass Mungo Bridge. He know say they were southwest. He they expect we see all time if clean to take. But if you unfortunately say when you enter Tico, one of the first Anglophone town, you get that bad impression.
Launching a weekly clean-up campaign, the divisional officer went to work himself cleaning the town and promised sanctions to those who will fail to respect this new sanitation measure.
And for those who do not take part in these activities, they will certainly be sanctioned. The Tico Council has a delegation to sanction those who do not take part in such activities.
And shop owners who were absent at the launch and also left their business premises untidy have their shops sealed. Every Monday, now in Tico subdivision, has been set aside as a clean-up campaign day.
We are just few days to the second delegation, the visit of the second delegation of the CAF inspection mission to Cameroon, but roads linking some sporting facilities here in the economic capital Douala are still in very deplorable state. Access to the general hospital here in the city is still problematic, especially to local inhabitants that are accusing the government of Cameroon of neglect. Innocent Aze tells us more.
Management of the Douala General Hospital has guaranteed to government the infrastructure will be refurnished to accommodate visitors of the 2019 AFCON to be hosted by Cameroon in case of injury. But the roads leading to the medical center, few days ahead of the visit of the second CAF fact-finding mission to Cameroon, are still broken and rugged. Craters are uncountable. Other stretches seem to have experienced what many would term road slides. This is an original reflection of most road stretches in Douala 5 municipality. Users are even ashamed driving on the roads.
C'est une honte même pour nous.
parce qu'on ne comprend pas ce qui se passe.
This taxi driver says he is not sure Cameroon will be able to host the 2019 AFCON as speeches are made but nothing done. The blame is levied on the government delegates to the Douala City Council.
Nous ne connaissons même pas Douala si on a un délégué de gouvernement.
Commercial bike riders who ride in our neighborhoods testify roads in the remote quarters and villages are far more better than this one leading to the Douala General Hospital, which can facilitate a patient's death.
Voilà, ça en vaut même plus la peine. Bêta, c'est quand même, disons même le village.
Not only is the state of roads annoying, it is as well a dead trap to users.
Le corps est cassé, les reins font mal et tout bon. On est obligé de se porter comme ça.
Authorities in Douala are expected to sit up and ensure the final CAF inspection mission does not set eyes on this humiliating nature of roads leading to the General Hospital when they come visiting on the 19th to the 24th of March 2018.
And still ahead of the 2019 African Cup of Nations game to be hosted by Cameroon, drainage canals are being enlarged in major areas in Yaoundé usually hit by floods in the wake of a rainy season or in the wake of every heavy downpour. It is a move to minimize the rate of inundation in several parts of the nation's capital. Waste are also being extracted from streams as a remedy to the recurrent floods in the town of Yaoundé. Innocent Aze once again has the details.
A decisive task to put an end to recurrent floods in some areas in the central region, Yaoundé, like the Mfunzi. It needs to enlarge drainage channels, which have been bringing nightmares to the population. Overland flow is predominant because the drainage channels are usually blocked by non-biodegradable materials and other garbage products. It is believed this enlargement of drainage channels and extraction of waste materials will relieve pedestrians as well as drivers whose vehicles automatically become boats when it rains heavily. Other areas like Acropole already witnessed the construction of drainage channels. Plastic papers hanging on walls of the drainage channels simply recall a visitor. This is the level water attains during heavy downpours.
And we now talk about rising insecurity here in the economic capital, Douala. Before we take you to the second part of this newscast, at least two gangs of close to a dozen suspected hoodlums are now under custody here in the economic capital, Douala, over vehicle and computer theft in an operation led by the Lieutenant Colonel Vundi Emane of the Territorial Gendarmerie Brigade here in the economic capital, Douala, and also led by the Legion Commander, that is Abina Ahanda. The first gang of the three individuals who were arrested a few days ago, they were presented to media men and women here in the economic capital, Douala. Another gang of close to 10 were also caught in the economic capital, Douala, with laptops, stolen items. As well, they have been terrorizing local inhabitants in several parts of the economic capital, Douala. They are due to appear in court in the coming days. And that brings us to the end of this first segment of the news. Up next is Talking Point. We shall be right back. Viewers, we thank you so much for joining us in this second part of the news. Tonight, we are going to be talking about key major issues, that is the meeting of government ministers that would be taking place tomorrow in the nation's capital, Yaoundé, at the Unity Palace, chaired by the President of the Republic of Cameroon, and also the situation of refugees in neighboring Nigeria. We have as guest a political analyst, Mr. Aku John Aku. Good evening to you. Thank you so much for joining us tonight.
Yeah, Mimi, the pleasure is mine.
The pleasure is ours as well. Now, 4 years after the previous meeting of Council of Ministers took place in Cameroon, another one is going to be taking place tomorrow, Thursday, in Yaoundé. What could possibly be the stakes of the meeting, Mr. Aku John?
Yeah, in public administration, I believe if you talk of 2014, it might equally be referring the last time the head of state took an initiative to re-amend the government. Whenever there's a new team in government, there's always a need for ministerial, or what we call a council meeting between the head of state and his ministers. So this is the first. We believe the head of state equally looking at the stakes that awaits Cameroon for this year. We have an electoral year. We equally have projects in and around the country get towards what we just said, organizing the African Cup of Nations. And so there's a lot of things, there are a lot of things on the table for the head of state to maybe call those who are concerned to order, and that results awaits them, and maybe if without results, sanctions may follow. So a lot Cameroonians are expecting from these ministers whom we know were just appointed, as some giving applause for their role played in crisis situation, while others have equally been maintained, even though they have suffered a lot from telling lies and fooling Cameroonians with unfulfilled promises.
Now many are having the impression, since you've already talked about elections, that the issue or the topic on who is going to be, whether President Pobia is going to be running as candidate, is probably going to be on table. Do you have a similar view? No,
I don't think this should be an issue within the Ministerial Council. This is an issue that is supposed to be run within the ranks of the CPDM. If it was the National Congress or the CPDM, we should be expecting a thing of this nature being brought to the table. It has nothing to do with the head of state, whether he's going to be the candidate or not. These ministerial or whatsoever members of government are for Cameroonians.
What about the senatorial elections?
Yeah, if it is senatorial election, we are equally expected still to see the bureau of the CPDM members meeting in a 2D and not the ministers, because we hope that the government we had is a, it's a power-sharing government with a lot of other political parties participating in the government. The UPC have members and other political groups. You cannot be called a minister to talk about election. The head of state is not the one organizing the election. If the rules of law are to be respected, this is the rules of ELECAM. In fact, it is a function of the ELECAM and not that of the head of state.
Mr. Akko John, another issue, this is the first time that Ministerial Council is taking place after the creation of 2 new government ministries in Cameroon, the Ministry of Territorial Administration and Decentralization and Local Development. Many have the impression that these ministries were created to put an end or seek for solutions as far as the Anglophone crisis is concerned. What do you think might happen during the Ministerial Council, given that it is the first time that such a meeting is taking place since the 2 ministerial departments were created?
We cannot talk of 2 ministerial departments. A single ministry was created because one seceded from the other.
Of course.
So just one ministry was created, the ministry in charge of decentralization and rural development.
And local development.
You will imagine that this particular ministry is coming to respond to what people have said, lack of decentralization. But then, within the time, we're thinking of creating a ministry. It's like, I have the impression that the political powers that be in Cameroon always sit and dream of something that they come out with it. We were here talking of elections, senatorial election being organized without regional councils, and which we cried all that Cameroon would have been better to accelerate decentralization, put in the position of the president of the regions, and then create regional councils so that we can have a better Senate. But now we are going into an election whose legitimacy many Cameroonians still doubt, that the legitimacy of the Senate is still to be accounted for because they were supposed to be elected by this group of people. And you know, it is within the spirit of decentralization that regional councillors can be elected, or if at all, create the organ.
Possibly with the ministerial department in place, we could start talking about regional councils.
It might not be so, because I know what my country is. This ministry might have just been created to tell Cameroonians that we have intention of going more better or carrying decentralization to the next side.
We need to see for decades already.
It is already failing. When you look at the ministry today, you even imagine that those who have equally been appointed at the helm of these ministries without whether they are technocrats in the domain of business, because we have the feeling that in Cameroon it will not be easy for you to find a medical doctor appointed in the position of a forest ministry. You have a medical doctor maybe appointed to take care of communication. You have a lot of miscalculation within the government, which we think at times always come with the concept of compensating those who have been by the side of the head of state, not really looking at the goal the state wished to attain. And so this is the problem with sovereign Cameroon. Cameroonians might be good, the intention might be good, but then in the application of these laws that we are crying for, everybody said, okay, if we wish for decentralization, let's go ahead with better decentralization. I believe this year, as earmarked by the head of state in his message to Cameroonians on the 31st of December, we're going to accelerate decentralization. This was the first ministry to be created by the head of state before any other decision would have taken, or before he would have taken any other decision. But when we still realize that it is either a political applause or a political compensation for those who are members of the CPTM.
Now, talking about the ministry, talking about ministers, we are having a series of travel ban placed on some of the sacked ministers in Cameroon. We have the Minister of Water and Energy Resources as well as other administrative authorities in Cameroon. How do you interpret that? And according to you, what could be the impact of such a move by security and gendarmerie officials in Cameroon?
It is not new in Cameroon that a minister is dismissed and the same minister is prohibited from traveling out of his country. You remember the former Minister of Finance, Esimi Menye, equally, after leaving the Minister of Agriculture, was equally forbidden before he was later on kept under custody. I believe the Minister of Water and Energy, we have seen a lot of fouls at the level of Cam Water and many other ministries. You see, the head of state is trying to give us the impression that they are out to fight corruption. But then I will tell you that it is just maybe a victim of circumstance, that these are not the lone persons. If we want to fight corruption, we cannot wait until somebody is taken out of office. Where is the money he has embezzled? What has he done? What was he doing? What measures have we kept in place to see that any further embezzlement or mismanagement we can check? There must be check and balances. And what I'm saying here is that we have invoked several times on the creation or the implementation of Article 66 of the Constitution, which talks of declaration of assets. Yes, these are people who pass their time going to Europe to watch their matches. I mean, a minister will use the budget of the state, pay his own friends and others to enjoy in luxurious hotels in Europe to watch a match. Others go for hair making, others maybe for shopping abroad. We haven't had any institution that check on the expenditure of ministers. I'm here with you to tell you that some time ago, the new French president and his prime minister were questioned for taking a business flight. And we don't have these mechanisms that I call management outlets to tell us that a particular minister is mismanaging
Whereas
funds.
we have institutions charged with auditing as well as controlling corruption practices in ministries in Cameroon.
Yes, when we talk of auditing, it means the person has used the funds already. Auditing will not solve the situation. There's a regular principle in public governance. We talk of prevention is better than cure. So it is better first to prevent mismanagement rather than going to check whether he has mismanaged. Because when we see, we will start, if we have to create a commission for the declaration of assets, we'll start with the head of state. How many Cameroonians know the salary of their ministers? Who even knows how much the head of state has earned as a salary this year and how much he might earn next year? Where are his accounts and all the like? This is what we mean. This is the role of the commission. So that if somebody is appointed a minister and he had a car before being appointed a minister, the children were all schooling in Yaoundé or Cameroon. After being appointed a minister, we start seeing the same children that were in Lycée General de Clerc or Lycée Bilingue, a source, now being schooled in London School of Economics, the Harvard Institution or Cambridge. There is already a question mark. Where is the money coming from? It is not because you are appointed. You were already, first of all, a public civil servant with a salary. And so we don't expect your salary to leapfrog above the ordinary level where you are until you have means to sponsor students or children in Harvard or Oxford. If a lot of these things taken into play, some people even have parking within their compound, about 12 cars. When he was before, he had just one car, and we see what has been happening again.
There's no
in fact, there is no transparency, and the state does not even have an interest because it arranges them. It puts them in a position so that they keep on at one point. When each of these cases come up, they will always like to launder. They will always like to launder themselves.
Because in several cases where ministers are sacked or dismissed from the government, there's always the issue of possible arrest.
This is what I'm saying, that what are we doing so that we even stop them from mishandling the funds? We need to put a mechanism that will assist Cameroonians not to even mishandle. If you know that a dog is very close to meat, what you have to do is that, like within the home, you keep the meat in a position that the dog will not have access. But when you put the meat in a position where the dog can have access, and you have done nothing to even cover the pot or carry stone over the pot, The dog would obviously eat the meat, and when it eats the meat, you have to kill the dog.
Now,
then you are the one creating the incident and not the dog.
Now, Mr. Akojon, we are going to be talking about the situation of fleeing Anglophone refugees in Aboro, Nigeria. We have been presenting to our televiewers the situation of the refugees that are more than 20,000 so far. According to the United Nations High Commission for Refugees, we equally learned that a humanitarian crisis is threatening the growing number of Anglophones at the refugee camps at the Cross River and Benue States in Nigeria. The UN refugee expressed worries about the situation of minors, young girls that have not been to school for several months now, close to 2 years. What do you have to say about that, Mr. Akojo?
Yeah, when you look at the refugee crisis in the two English regions, the government had no interest in that. Because to some people, at the beginning of the crisis, if we had to stop the crisis, then you are going to close over the markets that belong to others. Some people have gained market within the system, and so they even prefer that the people should continue staying out so that they keep on selling. I asked a question and I told many Cameroonians, can you imagine what it means to the budget of the state to keep the military out of his base for more than a year? Who are those sponsoring this budget? Where is this amount of money coming from? And who are those managing and using the funds? We have just created a situation, and I would still insist that many, those who are in top management position, don't even wish these refugees to come back. Because if they come back, it's going to give them an impression that the situation is doing well. So once, time and again, they within themselves will create the insecurity so that these people will keep on fleeing, while creating tension in the neighboring country of Nigeria, more pressure on the government over the Cross River State. And this one is what I've said before.
The pressure is too much on the United Nations High Commission for Refugees. They have actually talked about need of funds to provide shelter and food to the growing number of refugees. They have so far received no assistance from donors. What could be the implications?
It is just telling you that what the United Nations is doing is mainly doing its role of whistleblowers. They just blow up the whistle to tell that there's a humanitarian crisis in one part of the world, and so those who can assist, you know, the West, somewhere along some Western nations, they have these charitable characters that they always bring money, they always bring clothing, they always bring food, even on personal or individual grounds. But now, in the country that be, what are we doing with our own citizens? Because some time ago I said, if we are going to take this year as an electoral year, one of the objectives of the elections of this year is to make sure that the security crisis in the two English regions must be stabilized. And if we have to stabilize it, the refugees must come back home. This is an impression that will give the people. You cannot be going for an election with more than enough population of these people in the region out of the national territory, and at the end you are going to impose candidates on them. Those who are going to elect as senators,
do you think that recommendation can be taken into consideration, given that even a statement from the government of Cameroon is still awaited on the situation of refugees in Aboro, Nigeria?
That is what I said. They have no interest in it, and that's why they are not even making a statement. How can you be in a country and another organization, an international organization, is crying for the situation of your citizens, and you are not doing anything about? I would like to tell you here that you cannot at any instant announce to the whole world that an American citizen is in danger, and the U.S. government stays silent without taking necessary action. An Israelite cannot be in danger, and the Israeli government, I mean, even one, without the Israelite government responding to that situation. But in Cameroon, I said it is normal. Whether they are dying abroad, let them die. The few, less than the 1% that is governing, keep on embezzling, keep on mishandling, and their own children succeeding in school, going to prestigious institutions. In fact, we just saw what happened with the NAM. Every minister is fighting that the son or the daughter should get into a NAM. But there are some sons and daughters of this nation that are littering and sleeping on the streets. Nobody cares about. This is not governance. This is bad governance.
And the fear is that the number will continue to rise in the coming days.
Yeah, we are saying, you know, at one time it appears like it's getting stable as a government. In fact, that is the information which is from the head of state on the 31st of December, that things are getting stabilized. But then, every day, a new aspect of insecurity is developing. We are not saying that we are encouraging it, but the state has a prior role to keep Cameroonians together and let every Cameroonian have a sense of belonging. We all are Cameroonians, and at one point, we must do what Cameroonians want, not what we want, because we, the government, we are called to serve, not to be served. We are Cameroonians, and that Cameroon belongs to everybody.
Mr. Akojan, thank you for joining us tonight on Talking Point.
The pleasure is mine.
Thank you so much. To our viewers, it was equally a pleasure having you with us in this edition of the Primetime Newscast on Equinoxe Television. Wishing you a blessed stay in the company of our programs. Until we meet again, goodbye.
Equinoxe